Well, I wanted to kick off. You guys are good. I think everybody knows Tim, Choice Bank. You guys have made quite a name for yourselves, especially recent years. We all go back a ways further,
We
right?
do.
And I
Yeah, we
thought, man,
do.
if you wanted to talk a little bit about, I think back to what, 5 or more years ago, probably when we're all kind of the
Yeah,
earliest days, a lot of
I'll
this
tell you
BaaS
what,
stuff.
right after that, we were at the roundup and I was like, who's that dude, man? He's smart as hell, you know? Every question, everything he said, I was like, this guy's something. Who is this guy? And right after that, I was told Tanner, I was like, we gotta get this guy involved more, man. He's somebody. I really liked you right off the bat.
Yeah.
Likewise. Yeah, you guys have always been at the forefront of thought, and it's always fun to get into that thought leadership side of things. So yeah.
Well, we'll start off a little bit, man. Talk about what the bank kind of the bank history, what things look like, and what the transformation has been, man. Because I know you've been a big part of all that.
Yeah, one of the best sponsored banks in the country right
Absolutely.
Well, appreciate that that thought and the compliment there. Yeah, it's been a product of you want to go back to like 5 years ago, 5, 6 years
there.
ago.
All right.
Yeah. 5, 6 years ago. Where our story was born, I think I've told you guys this, but it's maybe worth repeating. Even going back further, I was asked to be an advisor for FIS in terms of the core we were using and in a similar sort of way, just in terms of thought leadership. They either thought I was on something or onto something in terms of thoughts, right? And so they asked as far as being an advisor for FIS, and so I would go and you'd give them their ideas, and then you'd go again in about 6 to 9 months, and started to be a little bit of a pattern there that I noticed. And I went to the third meeting, and it was a pattern. And I don't, as I've reflected out, yeah, I was frustrated for sure at that time. The pattern though that I noticed is they were certainly focusing on their customer. They just happened to be focusing on the employees of the bank as their customer. And so, in 14 and 15, there was a lot of emphasis on the employee's experience on the software side of things to make that better.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I always start with the customer. And I think in this case, they got so deep into that focus that it was really hard to find time to help banks or financial institutions really focus on their customer, if that makes sense. And so really that's what I saw. And during this time frame, obviously it was early, but there were already a handful of really good sort of neo banks in the country, and SoFi being, maybe the more household name of that short list, if you will. And I know I'm missing others, but it really ended up being sort of, for me, we need to do something very quickly here, or we're going to be in trouble. Like from a banking perspective, customer experience, the digital experience has to be something that, it can't just be a one size fits all solution. And I think that's really where we all got caught in this disruption mode. And so I think we are right. I think we were very right for the disruption. I think we still very much are. And, I think we're just getting into, I don't know, the third, fourth inning of a baseball game and sort of this disruption pattern.
I agree completely. I got to tell you, man, you
Yeah,
had
go ahead.
this line here a while back. We were talking and you said, how to get in, how expensive is it? And it's like, it depends on what you do. I mean, some things are super cheap and easy, and some things are really expensive. You want to go in there and compete with the big guys right off the bat, be prepared to bring a big bat.
Yeah, I mean, I've left. If there's a bank that wanted to show up and compete with you, that's a tall freaking order, right?
But what he
just
said
to
was
participate.
so clever. He said, take on one brand and you'll learn so much that first year. The second year, try to maybe take on maybe one more, maybe two. And by the third year, you're a pro. And you're ready to take on a lot more. And it was like, it's just little things like that you sit down and you think of all the stuff that goes into each piece of this and how this all works. And it's like, truer words couldn't have been ever spoken, that you don't need to go crazy. That was
yeah. And even in our first, when we started, maybe just to finish that story, and then it's turning the page a little bit. I ended up going back to my CEO and said, we've got to go build this on our own. We can't rely on the software company that we're running the bank on. So that was kind of the pivot point where we started entertaining this thought of a partnership, collaboration versus competition sort of mode. If we're not gonna, I don't want to be in the competition business of neobanks, and I also think that there's a great sort of partnership model. And so we just started attacking it more from a partnership model, had our first deal and sort of that came to us. I was very frustrated, and it was, I don't care, whatever it takes, we're going to do this kind of mode. And when you're in that mindset, you can accomplish a lot. and so we ended up just doing it in a way where we didn't know any other way but to build it ourselves. That was sort of the motivation. We didn't even know where to turn, so we just decided, let's go figure this thing out. And we built the integration ourselves at that time. This would be 2016, 2017 in the timeline. And it ended up really, I think we did it the hard way, but I'm grateful we did it the hard way, because the hard way, I think, allowed us, as I reflect back on our partnerships, we found that a partner, a neobank, in this case, we'll just mention Lively HSAs. It was our very first, number one, super, from a savings account, 1 to 2 transactions a month on average. Very little fraud in terms of HSA usage. It was just a really good first program for us. And I think that from a risk component, it really helped our organization get comfortable versus going to some other type of target customer, and ended up, just taking on a little bit too much at that time. So yeah, it was take on one, let's make sure we can do it right. The difference between doing a direct integration and sort of the middleware platform, which there's a lot of great companies out there helping with that. We just didn't know that they were even existing at that time, because we just had our head down and we went and built it ourselves. And so I think that ended up really becoming a differentiator for us in the marketplace. Again, just by a product of, we didn't know any better and we just built it that way. And so, we had a lot of direct oversight and direct integration and direct policy and procedure. Our team directly needed to do those. There wasn't someone in the middle that we were putting in charge to do those things on our behalf. And I think that educated our team so much faster. Yes, it was harder, but we're just believers of, there's never really an easy way to do it. If it's something worth doing, it's gonna be hard. And so we anticipate that. And every day we kind of go, wow, this is really hard, but it's still, we got to rise up, and we got to rise up and continue to embrace that this is a hard business to be in, and that it's only going to get harder. And it's a mindset that our organization took on to get into this arena of BaaS, banking as a service. And so far, our customers that we serve come to us because we have that direct, high touch, sort of white glove treatment. We're not out trying to sign up 100 customers per year. We are looking, we'll add one this year. We're onboarding another. So it's 2 programs, but these are truly at scale companies, and they're bringing real scale right from day one. And not, from a tidal wave perspective coming in, but they have a book of business, that they have a proven model, and they know how to go out and get customer acquisition. And so those things, those are sort of built in to the process, and we don't have to go necessarily through the journey of a startup company and trying to find a minimal viable product, and then seeing if you have product market fit. And then if you do establish that, then you have to go through and there's just no way to do it. It's a grind. You have to go through all of those challenges and whatnot to get to the other side. And if you're lucky, you get to scale. And so, we are attracting more at scale companies because of the direct
That's it.
nature of what we have. Long way to get to that answer, but that's really where we're at, I think, in terms of our differentiator today.
I think
Totally
that's super
super.
important. I haven't seen, what we would call the connector model, the easy button. There's not a lot of major players that are doing that. It's like maybe it's a good place to start. Maybe it fits certain situations. Not completely against it, but you will find that the better players have got, like, I love how you said that white glove treatment.
Okay.
You understand, I've really just beat the hell out of this issue with everybody, that if your brands need certain pieces of, Reg O, Reg E, Reg Z, whatever it may be, you need to be specialist on that and not really treat these guys like a customer, so much more like a third party vendor, and really stay on touch with all these things. But you don't have to have compliance across, you don't have to have the depth of your bench on every single issue. It's only the ones that your brands are
The
focused
focal
on.
point.
So you've got your bank and your compliance there, and then you've got your brands and what they're doing. That's where you need to have the expertise on whatever regulations that they apply to. And that's really that white glove thing you're talking about is, you're a specialist in the areas they need you to be a specialist in, and integrate well in the areas that they need to have those integrations in. And the fact you guys built all that, wow.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you guys are a top player today in a big way. And I think it's really weird because I think for a long time, we all wondered, how do you even measure, I guess, what success looks like? I mean, we all know internally how we would all measure, right? But externally looking at banks, what's a successful profile look like? I think for us, I look at the fintechs or the brands, right? That's beginning to get a little muddy these days.
Mhm.
But if you look at those top programs that are out there, let's say there's 100 that are probably really a part of that conversation, right? And you find a short list of bank names that participate and run those 100 or so programs. And you guys
Sure.
are definitely one of them, man. So that's a cool, and I think I love the background, and I like your sort of the extended history. So I guess maybe a bit of a cultural conversation. But if you just ran sort of that BaaS history, that's not that long of a, 5 years ish for you guys.
Mhm.
That's a
Yeah.
heck of a transformation, right?
Well, the cool
I mean,
point
that's
is
a big
you said the
difference.
background. I thought you were talking about his cool guitars, man. But when you talk about that, the third inning, that was really cool. We just get pounded every day with bankers trying to understand how to do this. And almost all of them start from that same perspective that you had, that, hey, we got to do something here. We're not going to make it, right? And then you went from do something and we ain't going to make it to one of the best banks in the country.
Let me hit both of you guys with this, because I think we all, I mean, certainly all of us, BaaS Association, co-founder, board member, Tim over here, right? So we get to scramble on a lot of this. We're all talking so much about solutions, and I think there's a lot of community banks that are beginning to understand the space and starting to talk about solutions, but I don't know if we talk enough about what are sort of the macro problems. To me, to sum it like in one sentence, it's that banking is shifting from a direct to an indirect sales model. I think that first manifested itself in sort of the fintech-y neobank space. We're starting to see that with other brands now, right? I think Starbucks is a good example. You see some things out of the folks like Walmart. That's actually Eric and those guys do a lot of that.
Coastal. Yep.
You got things like Home Depot. So we're starting to see kind of some of the top brands that are not necessarily financial services brands beginning to distribute things. And if you think from their perspective, Apple, that's an interesting one, right? It's a really interesting way for them to create sticky customers.
Yeah.
That to me is sort of the opportunity threat, right? And I think banking just as a whole, we're shifting from directly servicing customers to indirectly, and that sort of shift is beginning to happen. Does that sound right to you guys?
Well, one more thing that I think is really critical here is that there's a lot of people in the marketplace that either want to oversimplify this or overcomplicate this. There's a pretty neat little middle ground for wherever you are. If you're a bank just starting out in this, or if you're a bank that's a pro, there's a pretty good little place in here. We don't need to be told the basics. We got that. It's always what's frustrated me about learning new stuff is they spend half the time telling you things you already knew. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's a good thought.
If you were a little bank in nowhere trying to say, hey, I need to do something like you were a long time ago, what would you do?
Yeah, I think you got it. Well, so first off, and I will go back a little bit to the holistic organization at Choice. I think part of the reason, most of the reason, somewhere in the middle, there was this fact that we have, and we had, and we still have an excellently run regional top performer financial institution in the country all by itself. If you were to peel BaaS off and just simply look at the organization itself, it is one of the best banks in the country already. Now, from an innovative perspective, I think because it had, and it still has, that place in a direct model, as you put it, Tanner, and it's still doing very well in that space and continues to grow. You know, there is this perspective, that a mindset that we can't lean on or just consider that as it's, you know, an easy button and let that just coast for the rest of its time as an organization. There was an early recognition of innovation entirely by the organization, that where else is this thing potentially going to go from a financial perspective? What other customer segments are out there that we could potentially start looking at serving slightly different? And so I think BaaS for choice has been, we were in a good spot organizationally to start thinking about what's next. And that put us in a great position to start the things that we were able to do. And, you know, it didn't take off like a rocket ship for us. It was a nice, slow, intentionally, we didn't want to, you know, just light a rocket, because I just don't know if you know what you're going to find in terms of how do you manage a new customer segment that you've never been in terms of just serving the needs of that. So I think I want to acknowledge the organization has a great insurance company that does extremely well. Again, one of the best in the country. We have the mortgage divisions too. So I just want to recognize that Choice itself as an organization is set up intentionally to start innovating and looking at different customer segments to serve. So it's important. I want to just make sure I establish that. Second, when we started looking at, well, what are we going to do with customer segments? We kind of looked at it from a perspective of what problem are we really trying to solve for the organization? And for us, it was, we're great lenders. We do not have a shortage of doing really, really good loans in our regional area. We were consistently leveraged at the highest you possibly can from a deposit to loan ratio. In fact, we were in the borrowing broker deposit business just to be able to sometimes maximize the opportunities. And so really it was about what other kind of deposit sources are out there. And so that was the lens, you know, that was the challenge for my CEO, and said deposits could be the one thing holding us back from growth. So go find deposits. And so he pointed me in a way that just said, okay, well, let's go find some relationships that we could build that hopefully could help the organization grow from a deposit perspective. So I think the key there was find something, some problem. If I were to give advice, going back to your key question, someone who wants to get into this business and doesn't really know where to start, look at the organizational challenges. Is there a problem we're trying to solve? And then go see if you can partner with companies that could help the organization solve that problem. The second key point, I think, through this entire piece, and I think it's at the core of what community banking was, and maybe we lost sight a little bit from an industry perspective. I think we got kind of, I don't know how to say this, so bear with the thought here. I'm thinking out loud.
Love it.
I think we kind of got a little bit proud of our brands in community banking. You know, I'm sitting here with the Choice logo and the Choice shirt, and I'm certainly proud of who I work for. But what does that really mean to the customer when you're serving the customer? It's not necessarily about the Choice brand, it's about the customer's brand. And you as a community financial institution really take on what I think is more of a servant leader in your community. You're there to help the other business succeed. And when they succeed, you succeed. So it's really, it shouldn't have ever, or it isn't about the bank's brand or the financial institution's brand. I don't think we are lifestyle brands that people will get passionate about. I think brands that have passionate customers that are brand loyal are the companies that I think could pivot and make those adjustments and changes to take advantage of what BaaS is today. And how do we blend that capability that might be serving sort of digital banks or brands today, but maybe the household brands that people are super passionate about, maybe it's about helping them continue to find ways to make their customers more loyal to their brand, share that revenue with their customers. So hopefully they can come back and buy even more products and services that brand is. And so I think there are some neobanks. I don't even know if that's the right term anymore. It's shifting. So there are a couple out there that are becoming a brand that people are passionate about, a lifestyle brand. They happen to be digital banks, but they are becoming lifestyle brands. And I think they're becoming lifestyle brands because they're doing the value proposition for their customer. It's not about, here's a cool product, buy it from us. It's, hey, here's a tool. We want to help you learn how to use it best. And then from there, we want to help you maximize the understanding of using this financial tool so you can run your business better. You can maximize your finances better for you personally. Here are some of the things that now you can start adding as far as value proposition in the educational journey. And I think when you give people access to financial tools and then really combine that with the educational on how do you position your own personal balance sheet or your company's balance sheet and how do you leverage that and how do you maximize that, I think that's when things can really start taking off. And so I'm seeing in the marketplace some companies that I think have the potential of being a lifestyle brand, because it's not about their brand. It's about hey, we're here to serve you. And I'm really excited about what's happening in that space. And then, yeah, like you, I think there's going to be great opportunity for maybe the classic industry company, right? I have a product I'm making. I want to be able to give that to my customer base or future customers, and I want to give them value proposition. What else can we do from a FinTech technology BaaS perspective to help them just get better at that and obtain more loyal customers through that process? So yeah, it's kind of, that was a long way to get to maybe that piece, but I think it's,
you got a big idea in your head. Sometimes it's hard to get out. And
yeah, I think that's maybe
right.
That might be where it's shifting. And that's really exciting to think about, because philosophically and culturally, that's really what banking is all about.
Right question.
And I think that, you know, for our organization, we're just super proud to serve a customer. And we recognize that, you know, we just want to surround ourselves with people that see that vision as well, in terms of just helping the community, whether that's a physical community in the communities that you live, or an online community, or a lifestyle brand that people get excited about in terms of on the digital side too.
I think you attack that. That's why I love your mind, man. You always have Tim's like I am, right? Like we just look at the world differently than the rest of you guys, right? Which makes us a little, sometimes it's weird, right? But you had such a profoundly unique way of looking at the brand concept. I've heard this debate from so many community banks about brand, but I've never heard a community bank actually question whether they ever should have held that belief in the first place.
Bingo.
Like that was some moral high ground, right? That I think that allows you, to your point, to reach the conclusion on, we could call it FinTech, neobanks, digital banks, but lifestyle brands and where all that blends together. It allows you to reach that conclusion and see the picture of how this macro evolution is going on, right?
I'm listening to this whole story from a small
awesome,
business guy myself. And it's like, you know, when you see business people in politics, it's like things usually work differently, right? Or we see business people perspectives. And you were literally speaking to me when you were saying that, because I'm the guy that I don't care about the brand of the bank. I care about my business, right? And when they make my business good, I feel good about them.
Yeah. Well, even in BaaS, though, if you look at the partnerships that we're working with, and whether it's Current, we're working with Current, that to me is a brand that's becoming a lifestyle brand, and we're proud to serve their customer base. And if you look at where Choice's brand is in that entire stream, we're like on the back of the card and the bottom of the website and in all the disclosures. I mean, that's how important the bank is in terms of that relationship. Now, the people that we're serving as employees and trying to lean in and understand what they're trying to do from their customers' perspective, that is something that, we've got to continue to do. We've got to continue to lean in and understand what's next. What problem are we trying to solve next? And what customer are we trying to serve? And I think we could always, we can always get better at that. And that's really where I think our organization, it's where we started, and it's certainly where I want to continue to put that focus in, because if we understand the customer journey and what problems we're trying to solve, then the person and maybe the accounting team actually, instead of just doing the routine job back there, they have a sense of purpose and that's the goal. That's the goal, is can we get excited about the work that's being done at every level of our organization, because they are connected in some way to a brand that is making a difference, and they do understand the problems that they're solving.
I think
That
that's
right
so
there.
great.
He just
I hope that's what
full circle.
that's what my belief is, my hope. Right.
Did you see how he came full circle back to his advisory time for the core and then missing that piece?
Yeah.
That was perfect, right? I mean, that goes back to just, I know the wonderful heart and soul that you have, but I mean, having that within the organization, that we want to feel good about the partners and our brand's less important.
Yep.
As long as our team feels good. I mean, I know that's true of our shop, right? Everybody's always fired
Everybody
up.
feels really good about
And they
what we
never-
try to do.
They
And
rarely
it's
get direct credit for what, right? It's for helping other people, which is such a cool thing that we see play out in a positive way. So
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, that's my goal. I think that if we can share if we can share in the journey of hard, then we have to share in the journey of success. And hopefully there's ways that, I mean, we got to continue to focus on this, but we have to give that why we're doing this work, and we have to be able to connect with that to all levels of employees, because it's too hard not to do that. And I think if we just continue to do a process and we don't understand the impact that process has, then we just get into a routine process, and that's no fun. That's just no fun for anybody.
Nobody on your team, if they ever have a question, pick up the phone and call me. You guys are the tip of the spear. You guys are doing so much good, and you're literally changing the world. You're changing banking. There's going to be so many banks that look and try to figure out what you've done here and learn how to survive. And they're literally fighting for their existence right now, going, what do we do? What do we do? And then people like you stand up. If that isn't enough to motivate your team to come to work every day, I mean, that's the charge. I've got goosebumps talking
paving
about
the hard road, man.
it really is. It's a good work.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys, and appreciate what you guys are doing for the industry too. It's hard, it's hard. It's hard to find, and honestly, thinking a little bit, we're kind of pioneers into. For me, I'm kind of disrupting my own organization, my own bank. I mean, there's a little bit of, there's a little bit of that this sort of role that I've taken on has I've personally had to learn to embrace. And this is just food for thought, but 2,500 banks left in the country, and then in the end of the decade, I don't know, maybe a few more. How many of those are going to be doing the hard work or doing some of those hard tasks that are going to put them more in that, instead of survival mode, they might actually get a chance to thrive? We think there might be 300 banks in the country that are willing to do that hard work and be in that thriving basis. So, that's kind of our 1 in 300 is kind of our moonshot. It is something that our entire organization knows, no matter what. We're in the relationship business, and I think we're in the people serving business. And yes, we want to use tech to help people gain access to their money.
It's our secret weapon.
but we're still in the people business, right? And ultimately our expression, our focus is people first, and that's our reminder that who we are and what we're all about, and that's how we get things done.
Yeah, for all the bankers out there listening to this, if I've told everybody, if everybody merged and everybody was $1 billion bank, you're still the bottom of the barrel and you're competing against people with trillions. It's not the answer. The answer is what he's talking about. Put people first, ignore your own brand if it does something good for, a business client or however you want to view a fintech brand, and let them serve people, because they can serve, whether it be like, Mocha and the veterans, or whether it's the foster care thing, or whether it's, current helping, children and other different cool things that you guys do with your brands. These are things that traditional banking are not really built for because of the geography versus the internet, right? And the touch points and the services that they can provide. Let's help them and then embrace this stuff. And it becomes an income source for the institution. If we went to every banker today and said, hey, there's this new thing coming called loans, and you're gonna have to learn all this stuff, and it's gonna be really complicated, and it's gonna be really hard.
Maybe the 300 would do it.
Right.
Loans.
But eventually, if you don't learn this and get a handle on this thing, it's probably gonna pass you by. And the pioneers of this, like you, hey, hats off to you. There isn't enough good words to say.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
I want to thank you too for being one of the founding members on the BaaS board. Let's start an association, right? And what are we doing that's good? There's so many institutions and so many brands that are calling and talking, and it's like, I don't really see a lot out of you guys. Well, pick up the phone. That's where everybody else is doing, right? And we literally take this down to the ground level, X's and O's, and blocking and tackling, and really put these things together. And then you guys, this is really interesting for me, is to watch the board actually interact with each other.
And
Yeah,
with
it's
outside
pretty cool.
taking a ton of calls from other community bankers, right? I mean,
You
the
help.
banding together of community banks has been pretty damn inspirational to be around.
Yeah.
Certainly on the BaaS topic, where we've got a front row seat. I know there's many other topics where it's going on, but it's been really cool to watch. You shouldn't be that way, right? I mean, that's what business would tell you. And I know you are, and I know that we are. It's hard to expect from others, but when we see so many other people just opening up the doors, right, it's awesome to see. So like you said, man, all about the people. And super thank you for joining us, man. It was awesome. And I got a couple of things I'm gonna have to drink a beer and think about, man. You left me with some pretty goodies, so I appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. It's the BaaS Association. It's just good to have people to connect with. And how are you handling these situations? And I've always found that there's always people willing to help if you're willing to reciprocate that and bring back and forth. And the guys at Coastal, the guys at Sutton, they're just, and I know I'm missing a ton, but they're just really good about sharing best practices, and that we just want to be able to serve our customers in a similar way. And so it's good. It's really good.
So thank you for taking time out of your busy day to come hang out with us a little bit.
We enjoyed it.
Yeah. Can I tell a quick story to finish?
Sure, man.
Yeah, man.
So Dave sends me a message saying, hey, why don't you come to the ranch and let's talk about some things. So this is the best story I have of you guys. So where's the ranch? Well, go here. You gave me all the directions. I said, well, can't you just give me the address? I should be able to find it via maps. He goes, no, it won't get you there. It always takes you the wrong way. So just do what I said. I said, okay, well, I'm visualizing what's this ranch going to look like. And it's a legit ranch. I mean, it's 100%. And Dave sent a beautiful greeter at the gate, which happened to be, I don't know if it was the biggest bull you have. This thing.
Oh no. Oh, so you're trying to open the gate with a bull. I love
this thing looked at me like, who the heck are you? And right at that gate, and I said, I remember calling you, Dave, you got a bull right in front of the gate. He's like, well, just shoo that thing away. You go, just shoot it away.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not going to be shooing a bull away. And you go, you watch too much TV. I'll be right down to come get you. So that was a long time ago, but that's my favorite story about you.
Great,
so,
man.
I remember that.
Awesome. And then by the time you came down, the bull just decided that, well, whatever. Just kind of mosey on down, kept going. So that was awesome.
Stuff, man.
That was fun.
You're
We'll
awesome.
come
man.
do it again sometime. We got
Yeah,
another.
Yeah. We'll definitely get together. Looking forward to that.
Sounds good, man.
All right,
Thank you.
guys, take care. Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate you guys. Take care.